Wes Unseld Jr., a couple years in, is now moving to a front office advisory role. We know that team has obviously been floundering. They didn't have expectations coming in, and I'm curious to hear how you unpack this because in stark contrast to a Milwaukee Bucks situation where it's really not hard and complicated to see why there was pressure. This is extremely different, more nuanced, more complicated. What kind of clarity, if any, do you have on why they made this choice?
I thought that this has been inevitable for a long time. And I don't think it's because of the Wizards' record, even though I do think that organization probably thought it would be a little bit better coming into this season than they ended up being. But let's go through the timeline. So sometime over the summer, shortly after last season ends, the Wizards fire Tommy Shepard, who was previously their team president, and they clear out part, though not all, of the front office. And along with the news that the Wizards are firing Tommy Shepard, another piece of news comes out as well. Whoever gets hired will not be allowed to pick their new head coach. Wes Unseld Jr. is staying in as head coach. Now, Ted Leonsis, who is the owner of the Wizards, puts a very large emphasis on local ties, puts a very large emphasis on organizational ties. And while I believe that Wes Unseld Jr. put in his time as an assistant coach and was ridiculously well respected as an assistant coach, the Wizards were not the first place that he ever got a head coaching interview. And when he got that job, everybody raved with him. Part of the reason that Leonsis was so sold on him was because of the romanticism of having Wes Unseld Jr., the son of maybe the greatest player in franchise history, the only finals MVP in franchise history, the only MVP in franchise history, having his son as the coach of the team, especially when Wes Jr. started off as an advanced scout and an assistant coach with the Wizards themselves. And I think it's putting everybody involved at a disadvantage when seconds after the news comes out that you're hiring a new lead executive in your front office. And they didn't just hire a new lead exec. They brought in Michael Winger, and they also brought in Will Dawkins as GM. They brought in Travis Schlenk. I think it's putting everybody involved at a disadvantage when it's immediately known before you hire whomever you want. There's no way you're picking your own coach. And at that point, the clock is just going to be ticking on that guy, and it's going to set back your process. And I think that's kind of what happened here. Pretty much any front office who comes in is going to want to pick their own coach. And I don't think this was a case of Wes doing some sort of horrific job. I don't think this was a case of something happening with the team that made them say, we have to move on. I mean, I think the team underperformed in terms of the way that they wanted to lose. Like, I think they expected more out of Jordan Poole. I think they expected more disciplined play. I don't think they expected this defense to be as bad as it was. And I think there were elements to wanting to move on from him, but I think this was inevitable. Maybe it wasn't inevitable to happen on Thursday, January 25th, but it was inevitable to happen at some point. This is just how these things tend to go when an owner says you're not allowed to choose your own head coach until you are.
By the way, the Will Dawkins and Michael Winger, Oklahoma City Thunder, backgrounds. Brian Keefe, Thunder background, came in as an assistant. Where you say, you don't pick your head coach. Well, sometimes you pick your lead assistant coach and the guy who's going to be tapped on the shoulder when the time comes.
And you immediately announce
that
he's there. You immediately announce that he's the guy for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Which means he's going to have a crack at the actual job.
Yeah, clearly. And it's, at least part of, you said set back their process. I do think they didn't necessarily, because I think part of hiring them was like, you got some time, right? It was like they're finally doing the full rebuild. I don't think they feel panicked. This isn't a panic move. It was the inevitable move. You set that up, in like a correct framing. But yeah. And then and I think this is it's good context for you on the whole Wes Unseld Jr. thing, because it wasn't fired goodbye, right? It's stay with the organization, at least for now. So
indeed.
Yeah. I also Leonsis is not necessarily known for paying people out to leave as well. That's another part of it too, which is why you do the transition. And then you bring up
you will be going to the Georgetown game tomorrow to scout college prospects because you have a paycheck, sir.
Exactly.
Something like that.
feels a little bit, this is a front office thing, but Larry Riley back in the day when the Warriors were reshifting their front office, you guys that you like and respect, and especially who have that kind of history, family history with the franchise, optics wise, PR wise, with the fans, a wise move, I think, to have Wes, move into that role. All right, good stuff, guys. Isn't it funny though, by the way, just as a quick commentary, that the difference between high profile reporting and analysis on those teams like the Milwaukee Bucks, and then admittedly the way that we handle some teams that are just on a different tier. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to have 3,000 words coming on inside the Wes Unseld Jr. decision.
Speak for yourself, Sam.
Fair.
Speak for your damn self.
That read Josh Robbins. Go read Josh Robbins.
For you. Not true
All
for
right,
Josh
Knicks
Robbins.
guy. What do you know about
Not
low
true
profile?
For me.
Mr. Knicks beat writer. Get out of here.
Get out of here. Can I say one thing?
You got time to talk to us, Fred? Because you got your own Knicks pod that also is a reflection of the high profile team that you cover. You don't know that life anymore.
Cats and Shoot. You can subscribe at patreon.com/Cats and Shoot.
Yes.
But so I just want to say, I don't think we have any idea what kind of coach Wes Unseld Jr. is, what kind of head coach he is. I don't think he ever really got an opportunity to coach a real team. They got off to that really hot start a couple of years ago at 10-3, and everything fell off. But the culture on that team from a player's perspective was really off. Like I have heard, like, for example, that year they had Montrezl Harrell in their locker room, and Harrell was good for them on the court. And I am telling you, I can't remember the last time I heard a team so excited to trade somebody away. They were like, the only objective for the trade deadline is you have to trade away Montrezl Harrell, because what's the disorganization that's happening in this locker room associated with him right now. And there's a reason they traded him for Ish Smith, who is like the ultimate beloved locker room leader, who had been in that organization twice before, and then a third time, because they were like, we just need the biggest upgrade there. I don't think that was a Wes Unseld. I don't think that was Wes Unseld's fault. You have the entire Bradley Beal situation hovering over everything. You have Beal's injuries hovering over everything. You have a team that's 1 foot in, 1 foot out, would constantly chase the 8 seed. Now that it's the play-in, will chase the 10 seed in order to try to make it work. You've had them miss on draft picks. I mean, that Johnny Davis pick is looking like one of the most disappointing lottery picks in recent history, in terms of the fact that, like, he's just not even getting a chance to see the court. So like, this was not a good situation for him. And then you get this team, which is not even necessarily a rebuilding team. They're in like the pre-rebuild. They're in the pre-build, right? Where like they've got these guys who like aren't necessarily going to be part of the future, other than maybe a Corey Kispert or a Denny Avdia. They've got these guys who aren't going to be part of their future, but are just kind of like there in the meantime. Marvin Bagley, who's just there in the meantime. And it's just this conglomeration of players that is really difficult to mesh together. I have no idea what kind of head coach Wes Unseld
he got
Jr.
out. Yeah, he got out cleaner than Adrian Griffin is a way that I would put it. Adrian had the optics and the stuff that went on. I think it's going to be, hard for him to get another head coaching job. And Wes didn't, come out battered and bruised like that. Slater, you love how I kind of challenged Fred, like that we weren't unpacking enough, and then he just dove right. My God, I'm sorry, Fred. I'm sorry. Good job.